welcome, folks. Thanks for joining us for a Lake Life episode. We have Leslie Miller in here today. Cheyenne and I have been working on for almost the last year now.
Yeah, it really has almost been a year.
Almost been a year. Elders Histories. We were invited by the Circle of Native Minds to come in and document stories of elders. And Leslie was our very first elder that we got to talk with and tell his story. We're going to show his story after this introduction. Leslie, thanks for coming in.
Yeah, thank you. You're welcome.
Yeah. What tribe is it now you represent?
It's the Scotts Valley Band of Pomo Indians, and they're the historical Yimaba and Kalunapa tribes here in Lake County.
And Leslie goes on and tells in depth about his heritage and his Indian heritage. Tell us, and you go over this very somewhat in the documentary that we filmed, but what have you noticed over the years? So we know that you went away when you were young, you came back when you were older. Since then till now, what is the big changes that you've noticed in Lake County and as far as your tribe and maybe other tribes?
Well, just in general, I mean, not just with tribes, but with people. I've noticed since I've come back and grew up my young adult life in the Bay Area, and had a lot of experience with diversity, that it taught me a lot. It taught me how to get along with people.
Okay.
And when I came back, and it wasn't culture bound in any way. There was a lot of people with kind of kaleidoscope vision and just, I hate the term, but small-mindedness.
Yeah.
And,
I understand that one.
Yeah, totally understand
And
that one. Yeah.
when you talk with a more open mind, people take
Take offense.
offense to
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it, so I had to readjust to
Like,
talk with people here.
You know why people have that kind of reaction? It's because when they have, kind of that tunnel vision, it's all that they know.
Right.
And then when you say anything that kind of, contradicts that this is all that they know and, they feel so safe and secure in that, it kind of makes it to where you threaten that security.
Exactly.
Like, yeah, it's important that we expand our minds, and it's important that, we teach others what else that there is. But a lot of people initially will get freaked out because they're like, no, this is all I know. Like, I don't feel safe walking into that territory.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what I experienced when I came back. So I kind of had to mentally adjust to who I was talking to, and be very aware of that. So with that adjustment, I get along quite well.
I call it, for me, it's the 5-second rule. I think 5 seconds before I speak because you don't want to make that mistake.
I was wondering why you were pausing when you were talking.
He's got to let the filter go through.
The filter's got to go through first, yeah. If you're all curious why we're kind of like all in the green, today is St. Patty's Day, March 17th, 2026. I kind of like to put a date stamp on what we're doing to give people an idea. When we say Cheyenne and I have been working on, I've been talking about it for over a year. Finally, it's been I think another month, and we've literally been on this project for a year.
Yeah.
Super excited. Almost
A lot of
20.
work.
Yeah, it's almost 20 episodes. Leslie was our first. We're going to be blessed because some grant writing is going to be happening. We're going to be able to include some more of Elders history.
Super
Excited about that. So let's flash forward to now. There's been a lot of things going on at the Soper Reese Theater,
Yes.
cultural things. Tell us about that.
Well, I've joined the board of directors for the for the Arts Council of
Right.
Lake County,
Mm-hmm.
which they oversee the Sober Reese and the art gallery and the Lucerne art. I forgot the terminology of that, but I'm very, very excited about the arts, and I have a great gal working with Barbara Clark, who's the executive director, and
She is amazing.
she just
Yeah.
is constantly on the go, and I just really appreciate her and her husband, John.
John, yeah.
And so far, we put together 2 Pomo Culture series, one with the Big Valley Tribe,
Okay.
the Hennepin Tribe, and then the Scotts Valley Tribe, the Yumaba. And both were really good, great successes. And
Yeah.
Had
I got to
food.
see a little bit of it. I know for some of the dance ceremonies, they weren't doing cameras.
Right.
It's really not something that they do in
Right.
practice. It's a very private thing,
Mm-hmm.
and I respect that so much. And you guys have been so just gracious to Cheyenne and I, allowing us to come in and share your lives with us. And so we greatly, truly appreciate that.
oh yeah, we're glad somebody's interested.
Well, I mean, I've been interested since I was a kid. I mean,
Yeah.
I was around a lot of this growing up,
Right?
and
Well, because she grew up here in Lake County,
Yeah.
so she was most definitely exposed to, and you went to school with a lot of Native Americans.
well, then my parents did a lot of the powwows, Eagle Heart flutes. They did a lot of the powwows and different spiritual ceremonies all over California, and so like I've seen different perspectives too across different tribes. You know, like I've seen the Pomo, I've seen you know, like some of the Cherokee, Choctaw, Navajo. Like I've seen all different types of tribes and the ways that they do things differently, and it's really fascinating too. Like I'm really grateful that I got to grow up with that kind of experience, because it really just puts a whole new perspective on things, and it's really fascinating.
Yeah, and that's what I call diversity, because I grew up in the Bay Area, and I was the chairman of the Intertribal Friendship House there for a while, and got that back on track after it closed. And meeting all those different tribal people was just amazing, and it makes your mind grow and expand.
Exactly. That's what we did a lot of the shows at was in the Bay Area. Like we went, we go to Davis pretty often and some of the other colleges when they had some of the Native American art shows. We also did some stuff with the Academy of Science, and
Yes.
I kind of feel like getting to grow up with that kind of aspect, kind of similar to what you did, where you got to experience that diversity. And like I did at such a young age, and then coming back to Lake County, it changes things a lot.
Oh, yeah.
It sure
yeah.
does. I'm also grew up in the Bay Area, and my Native American history acknowledgement was the Miwas,
Yeah.
and it was spoken a lot about, in Marin County where I'm from. But then when I came to Lake County, and it was Pomo, right? So Pomo Indians. I had no idea that there were 7 different tribes.
Oh, yeah.
And that's what just makes this just such an amazing journey for me anyways, is learning all 7 tribes. And you folks, eventually when we release all of the elders history story, you're going to learn those as well. So moving forward, back to the Super Reese and the cultural series that's going on, is there anything in the near future going to be happening? This is going to be a regular occurring thing, right?
Yes, April 11th is the next one.
Okay. April 11th, 2026.
Yeah, and we have, we had to readjust because one of the tribes, the Robinson tribe, is having their general meetings
Oh, okay.
that weekend, so they can't do it.
Yeah.
And I tried the Upper Lake tribe, and don't ask me to pronounce that name because
I'm glad I'm not the only one.
And some of those are my relatives, and I feel bad, but that's not our tribe. So
Gotcha. Yeah.
anyway, we had to readjust and kind of put things together, and we have some speakers coming from Robinson, the elders,
Okay.
and we're going to have, I believe, the dancers from Pomo dancers from Point Arena.
Oh, how cool.
That's going to be awesome.
Yeah, that's going to be really cool.
And I'm in talks with them now, and they don't see any problem. And then we're going to have jewelry tables in the lounge when you come in the door,
Oh, awesome.
and maybe outside depending on the weather.
Okay.
So it's going to be exciting. And then we have food. We have the Indian tacos.
Oh,
on the
God,
outside.
I absolutely love those.
Yeah.
That was one of the conditions of her project that's going to be coming up. Are the tacos going to be there?
Well, those
Bernadine told me there may be tacos, so that's
When
good.
you know they're genuine Indian tacos,
Yeah.
when you're eating them, you can actually hear yourself putting on weight.
Yeah. You're growing. As you know.
Oh
that's
man,
just great.
I miss fry bread so
Oh,
much.
yeah.
Good stuff. Well, Les, thanks for sharing that. April 11th at the Super Reese. Folks, you can always go to the Super Reese Facebook page.
Yes.
They also have a website. You can check out all of the things going on there. There's always something exciting. It's great that they have added the cultural series to, and I know that it's not going away anytime soon.
Right.
Exciting stuff going to be happening there. Peg TV will be there. And we look forward to seeing you folks there. Thanks, Leslie, for coming in.
My name is Leslie Anthony Miller. I am with the Scotts Valley Band of Pomo Indians. The historic names is Kalanipo and Yimaba. And Kalanipo was South Lakeport out to Highland Springs, and the chief there was my great-great-grandfather, Chief Augustine. His Pomo name was Shook, and he is the person that had the run-in with the Kelseys. And after that had happened, he took his tribe and moved into Scotts Valley, where it was real dense at the time, and formed and blended with the Yumaba tribe and the Kumlai tribe. The Kumlai tribe was peoples that came over the hill from Hopland. They were in some kind of dispute over there due to some woman issues. So they blended with the Yimaba tribe, and they settled in, at the time, it was Bulke. Bulke is the name of which we call today Scotts Valley. But in the Pomo language, it was Bulke. And to the north, towards Blue Lakes, there was a tribe called Chenal. And Chenal was in northern Pomo, as well as Yumaba was northern. And that surprised me a little bit as I did research. And they both had the northern dialect, which again surprised me when I did some research. Chief Augustine went through a lot of turmoil trying to save the tribes that he was involved in. And his relationship to what happened on Bloody Island was an accident. He tried to save the name of his wife, who was being raped by Stone and Kelsey. So that's what caused that conflict and had deadly consequences at the time. In the year later, the militia came up and the army came up, got into the Bloody Island massacre, which my cousins from the Robinson tribe paid the price. So there were some hard feelings between our Yumaba Kalanipo tribe and the Robinson tribe for years. And a lot of people didn't quite understand why that was, but that was it. And this was the first year I went to the Bloody Island ceremony. I was invited by my cousin Clayton Duncan. And it was beautiful, turned out beautiful. I admire Clayton for his determination. But I think what had transpired through the years now, everything is okay. We understand and we forgive. And that was my message to Clayton a long time ago, to forgive and move on. And now that seems to have taken hold, and many other leaders appreciate that. After my grandmother told me that the churches were involved in getting Scotts Valley into federal recognition in 1911. Now, I haven't found out the history of that or exactly what churches, but I intend to do that. My grandmother was Bessie Augustine. She's the granddaughter of Chief Augustine. Her father was Joe Augustine, who is in some of these books telling the story. I'm very proud of the Augustine family. That blood runs through me. In my younger days, it really got hot. That blood was running through me, but now that I'm elder, the blood is cold. It's the right temperature to tell stories. So, growing up on the Sugar Bowl Rancheria, as you turn into, off of Hartley Road, you turn into, they call it Scotts Valley Rancheria Road now. To us, it was Sugar Bowl Road. You turn in, and the first house you see on the right is Steve Aggie Elliott's house. And then you drive a little further, and off to your left, you see Teresa Boggs' house, and the Boggs family. You drive up a little further, and there was Weston Holder. He was Kumlai. He was one of those tribal people from Hopland. And he came and settled on the reservation. And he had a little shack right off the road. Then you go further, and it was my mom, Rose Miller's house. And then you go further up, across the creek, was my grandmother and grandfather's house. And around the bend, about a half mile, was Paul Augustine. And then you come back down the road and go across the canyon, and there was Johnny Augustine's house, small house. And then up on top of the hill was Byron Augustine. Now, from those three great uncles, I learned a lot in life. They were my mentors, and I didn't know it. I used to just love to listen to all their stories. And they were so different. They were brothers, but they were so different. And they taught me about life and how to control how my life would go. And I listened to them. I listened to the elders way back then. I listened to my grandmother, my grandfather. I grew up with my grandparents because our household had 7 children, so I knew where I'd get the attention, so I went over to my grandparents' house, and they gave me all the attention. And I had a special relationship with my grandparents, Bessie Augustine and Jean Ray. My grandfather was my hero, and my grandfather was a bare knuckles fighter. And he would make money boxing people. They would set up bouts, and they would go to different rancherias or different towns and set up fights back in the days. He was very good. He always won, and he told my grandmother, who was probably about 4'6", tiny lady, he would tell her, and I never knew where he got that name, Sally. But he always says, Sally, you know, I don't mind knocking those guys down. He goes, but I don't like to hurt their feelings. And she goes, I don't like you doing that at all. You shouldn't do that. He goes, well, Sally, we need the money. But those were the hard times. And he had gardens and orchards in Sugar Bowl. He had chickens, animals, and he would sell wood, cut wood, sell eggs, sell vegetables, sell fruit, sell walnuts. And I had this big old truck. And I'd I'd get to shift that big little thing with him, and he would crack up laughing, and we would go on our way and spend the whole day selling products. And everybody knew Gene Ray here locally. He was one of the few natives that could come to town at that time. And this is kind of the sad part. He was the only person, because everybody knew him, they knew what he could do, but he was best friends with the mayor at that time, and they were good fishing buddies. And he was the only guy who could come to town and have no problems. You know, at the time, racism was real high. And it was a sad time for us. And we weren't allowed to come to town as children. My grandmother says, you can't, no, you only go with your parents. You can't walk to town and do things. You have to stay on the reservation and tell your parents you go with your parents. And so she stopped the learning of the Pomo language, or Yimaba language. And that's how, in answer to your question, Bernie, we don't know the songs, we don't know the language, which my grandmother cut it off. She was afraid for our lives at the time. So we didn't, and we were really close to town. We were very accessible. And one thing I remember about that time is the road that went through Sugar Bowl. It was just dusty. It was that fine dust, because so many people drove up and down that road, and the dust would just cover our houses, the houses that were closest to the road. And I remember that. And I remember when the county finally paved that road, and they hired a company out of Ukiah, and they came with big bulldozers, and those guys let us ride in the bulldozers with them, me and Iggy. We got to ride up there in the bulldozers while they were making that road wider. Then they paved it. I swear me and Iggy couldn't believe that road got paved, because it was just a mess every time a car would go up and down that road. And those memories are just embedded in you. And I tell my grandkids about this, how the families intermingled. Everybody kind of knew everybody's business, but when it came to hard times, they were there for you. Mom wanted to know if we can borrow sugar. Little kid, they'd send the kids to go do the borrowing. And everybody would borrow. When somebody didn't have butter, they knew who had butter, so they'd go and get that and take it back, and we'd borrow sugar from this one, flour from this one. And everybody was just locked in. And they didn't mind doing it. It was a different time. And then you'd come to borrow something, and you'd end up getting a cup of chocolate to drink while you were waiting to, from one of your aunts or your uncles. Or some of the older uncles would chew you out, for bothering them. But they would give you what you asked for. My Uncle Johnny, pretty famous here locally, but kind of brutal. He was kind of a brutal man. And he spent 24 years in prison for that brutality. But he showed me and talked to me about life. He said, when you get this old, things will make sense, but now they won't make sense to you. He goes, you can run and be free, and you don't think about these things. When you get older, you think about everything. And I'll be damned if he's right, because I think about everything now. I think about my grandkids get tired of me warning them about this or warning them about that. And every one of my kids, my 3 kids, Camille, Aaron, and Matt, they all have their own opinions. And they let their dad know that they're in charge of their families. And that's what I work for. And I tell you, I work to make them good people, and they turned out to be good people. They'll look you in the eye, they have no guilt. They'll help you out just like I do. My grandmother used to say, the greatest gift in life is to do for others. That's the Pomo way. And that's what I do. That's why I volunteer. That's why I get up at 11 o'clock at night, go help somebody fix their tire. But that's just the old way, and I grew up in that old way. I grew up in Sugar Bowl. It was a canyon between two hills. One hill was dry, the other was plush and shadowy, and that's where the angelica grew. And me and Aggie would set up there in the hill and eat angelica with our little salt shakers, the little Leslie salts, about that big. Sit up there and eat our angelica till we found a real hot one. And then he goes, oh man, this really burns, this really burns. I said, let me try it. And I miss that guy so much, but he lived his life. He lived a long life, and I appreciate him. And Aggie Elliott saved our tribe, our Scotts Valley tribe, when they took our land out of federal trust during the Rancheria Termination Act. He bugged the California Indian League of Service till they got tired talking to him, and they took on the case. He would go there probably 3 times a month, going into the office, and here's Aggie Elliott again. And finally they took the case. And he pointed out why they had a good chance. It's because the BIA, they had to do the final step before Termination Act, is the sanitation. And what they did, they came into our houses, put a partition, put a toilet over there, and ran the line right into the water level of the creek. And it would never work. It would always come back up. And so with that one mistake the BIA made, Aggie capped on that and took it to the California Indian Legal Service, and that's what they based their case on, because it was inconclusive, the sanitation of the tribes before you terminated their federal recognition. When Aggie was going to court, it was in 91, 90, 91, and 92 when it finally closed. He would call me up down in Alameda. I lived in Alameda and I was a contractor down there. And he said, "Bud, I need you to take care of the business." He goes, "I can do the work with the lawyers, but he goes, I need somebody to know all this stuff." And he goes, "You do a lot of reading, and he goes, I need your help." He goes, "This is your reservation too." And when he said that, his was the only lot left in Sugar Bowl. The only one. Everybody else lost their parcels, and the government really pulled a good one on us. They took our land out of trust and gave us the deeds, gave our parents the deeds. Well, our parents never dealt with property tax. They didn't know how to. And the BIA knew this. And they made deals with local real estate people. And they just let the property tax build up, get behind, and they came and took the land from us. That's how things were back then. That's how we lost our land and lost Sugar Bowl. And then when we made the final settlement, Steve Aggie Elliott won in court. They said that we could never go back to that property again. We'd have to buy new land somewhere. And his is the only one still out there. He's got 3 sons that live there. And it's not a good scene, but they have their property. And it's still in trust. And like I say, I miss Big Elliot every day. And what for him, Scotts Valley Band of Pomos wouldn't be here. And that was even other tribal members tried to take that title away from him, but we stopped that, and hopefully it stays that way. Like I said, those three great uncles taught me about life. My younger uncles, George, Chris, and Doug, Ben died early, so those uncles taught us mischief, is what they taught us, because they were young. I learned how to have a certain kind of fun with them. My grandpa used to get on them quite a bit. And like I say, my grandpa was my hero. And one day he went to the hospital because he wasn't feeling well, and he died. It shook me so bad. To this day, I get choked up about it. Great man. But the greatest thing about him was his kindness. How he got along with people, how he interacted with people, that was his strength. It wasn't his boxing. It wasn't that, it was how he communicated and how he got along with everybody. And that's what I admired out of him. And that's what I took on. And I modeled my life after him. And like I say, to this day, I get choked up. So I explain to my grandkids, when my time comes, I want you to believe in the spiritual part, so it doesn't hurt that much. And I talk to them all the time about this, and they seem like they understand. I said, it's going to hurt in the beginning. And I take them out to the graves, which I've redone probably about 13 graves now, headstones. Some of them never had a headstone. And I waited for the tribe for years and years and nothing happened, so I took it on myself to do it. And they're turned out beautiful. Well, I take my grandkids out there and tell them who these people were. I explained to them who these people were. I said, they make you. They're who you are. They're part of you. But their spirit still lives here. And only you can shut the door on them. So you care about the spirit. I said, someday Grandpa's going to be laying here. You got to come and see me. And so I got them in that realm. Hopefully it'll be effective. They talked to me about it. And one day I was talking to my grandson Matt, he's the big husky one. I said, someday Max, you look up at that sky, you see those clouds up there. That'll be Grandpa up there. You could talk to me. He looks up there, he goes, which one? So I said, you got me there, Max. So I just totally love my grandkids and my kids. And I just try to do and talk to them about our culture. But not only our culture, but to be a good person in life. No matter what culture you talk to. Be a good person. And it's going to help you through life. Communicate with people. Talk to them. Don't say, oh, they never talk to me, and then you get mad about it. No. If you need to talk to them, go talk to them. I've had a lot of good luck going up and talking to people. I always tell my circle friends here that I'm bashful, I'm shy. I have a way to communicate, and I learned that from my grandfather. I'm gonna go back to the history before Sugar Bowl. When the Kalunapod joined the Yimaba out there, and like I say, some of the Kalunapod people, like my friend Ron Montez, said that they left the area next to them and never came back. Well, they joined the Yimaba, and some of them kept going somewhere because they were afraid of retaliation to what happened at Kelsey. They occupied 10 miles north to south and 7 miles across, and that's Scotts Valley. And they had a little inlet towards the lake, 3 miles, from Rodman Slough down to Rocky Point. I live on Walnut, and it's the old trail from where the Yimaba used to come from Scotts Valley and do their ceremonies at Rocky Point. I was just so taken by that when I realized that. That's where they used to come to Rocky Point to do their fishing ceremony. My grandma told me so many stories, and maybe some are too harsh for this interview. So I'm not gonna go to those, and it involves the Augustine brothers. Paul Augustine, my great uncle, he was in the Bolshevik Revolution. He was a mercenary. And I said, how can this nice man be a mercenary? He was the nicest guy, but he had all these like swords and all the stuff from Russia. They paid him to go over there and fight. And I was at a loss. I mean, I was probably about 11 years old, 10 years old, listening to his stories, and and he told me some of the things he had to do over there, and I was just baffled by it as a young boy. I wouldn't go to visit him all the time because he had this little rooster, and that rooster was the meanest rooster you ever wanted. He'd jump on your back and pick you, and me and Iggy would take off running, and that rooster was faster than both of us. Then he had turkeys that would attack you. Those are the kinds of things that I remember as a kid there growing up on Sugar Bowl. I remember the Barnes family, Belton Barnes and Grace Barnes. They were from the Kumli tribe, and the Holders, Weston Holder and Ed Holder. They were the last ones from the Kumli tribe from Hopland, and they settled on there. I remember them asking Grandma if they could settle there. And she said, yeah, you can settle there. She was the matriarch. She was like the female chief of the tribe. And everybody would go ask her for certain permissions. And she was very giving, do for everybody. And I remember growing up that any family member that died, or close to being a family member, they would bring the coffins to her house for 3 days. And there were so many that came over the years. And if you ever heard women wailing, oh my God, that used to tear me up when I was a kid. I would go put pillows over my head and go to sleep, but it terrified me. But that was our way. And she would explain that to me, and she goes, there's going to be more people coming, because that's our way. And when I grew up, I presided over quite a few funerals, some very close members, mothers, aunts, uncles, so I understand that. But to this day, I don't think I could take that wailing. Oh my God, what a sound. What a sound. Anyway, we grew up with Angelica, Mountain Bomb, manzanita. We could build our little forts in manzanita trees, but you could never put a nail in there because our grandmother said, no, you don't never do that. You'll wake that tree up and bad things will happen. And I said, what about the oak tree, Grandpa? She goes, oh, you get pound nails in the oak tree. I don't bother the oak tree. So, and then we would hunt birds for her baskets when she would make her baskets. And each little thin thread, she would put a little feather in there and tighten it up. When it was all done, it was just like it was on the bird. Just beautiful. And she used to pay me an Aggie. She bought us BB guns, and she would give us BBs, only one pack at a time, to go get woodpeckers, go get meadowlarks. And I used to get her cottontail because she didn't like her false teeth. She would want to eat, so she would get little cottontails because they were the fillet. And she would boil them and make the meat real soft, and she could eat that. Yeah, then we went and got she gave us 22s. And you never want to be around 80 when he had a 22. There were very big berry bushes, and he'd be on one side and he'd see a cottontail and he'd start shooting it. I'm on the other end of that berry bush on the other side, and I'd ding, ding. The bullets were all going around. I had to calm him down. He had automatic. Great memories, throwing the boards onto the blackberries and going out and picking all the blackberries, and all of the Pomo people understand that. They all done it. And the blackberry pies my grandmother used to make were just sensational. The biscuits, still good tasting. It's funny, when I drove up that road the other day, all those memories kept coming back. And I think of the wildflowers, the Johnny jump ups, and the hitch in the creek, and the frogs. And then the winter meat, the big mushrooms that would come out on the willow trees during the winter after the rain. My grandma used to call those the winter meat. Because the deer were too hard to find, so we'd have to eat mushrooms. She'd make big stews and everything. It was very good. And she would enforce that. She used to call me boy. She enforced no onions on anything if boys in the house. So I used to love that. She was the only one who would do that. She goes, you can't have onions or boys going to be eating with us. And Grandpa used to laugh. He'd go around, and my uncles used to get all mad because they couldn't have onions in their food. Yeah, Sugar Bowl was a special place back then. We didn't know we were poor. You know, somebody had to tell us we were poor because we had everything. I know we had 2 sets of shoes, one for school and one for home. We had 3 sets of clothes for school, but they were spick and span when you went to school. My mom would give us the once over before, and she would give us our haircuts too, just flat tops. You get a flat top no matter what. And Grandma asked her to fix her hair one day. They used to do the permanence. And I go, watch out, Grandma, she might give you a flat top. I told her. My grandma started laughing. But, you know, any Pomo woman could tell you about the permanence that they would give to each other and sit out there and pass the day and run through all the gossip of the day. And it was a big time for them. That's what I grew up with. And like I say, there were some hard times, you know, where families would get mad at each other and stuff. But for most of it, it was beautiful, beautiful time in my life. And I took the teachings of my grandparents and my mom to do for everybody else, to help everybody else, to be a good person. When the churches came to pick us up for catechism, right down the street here, St. Mary's. Me and Aggie would run up in the hill and hide up there. And the sisters would come with a big station wagon and talk to my mom, and my mom goes, I don't know where they went. They can go to church. And we'd be sitting up the way in the trees looking down at them, eating our Angelica. And she goes, my mom would go, you guys, I know you're up on that hill, you better get down here, you gotta go to church. We wouldn't answer. And it'd send my brother Henry up to find us, and so me and Aggie would sneak into the Poison Oak so nobody would bother us. We'd sit in there. And my brother Henry used to get poison oak real bad, so he wouldn't mess with it. And then right there where Johnny Augustine's cabin was, they had wild plum trees. And those things you can build bows out of and bend them. We used to take some of our cousins and put them on those limbs and just shoot them way down the canyon. Lucky the dirt was soft out there. My cousin Corky, we shot him into the poison oak one time, and we didn't recognize him when he came out. But those were the fun days of youth on Sugar Bowl. I wish there was more written about Chief Augustine. And I'm going to find, if there is stuff written on him, I'm going to find it. I thank Ron for filling in some blanks with me, Ron Montez. But as we talk now, and I've said this before at the Circle of Native Minds here, the Pathfinder meetings, we should have been at this mental health table 40 or 50 years ago to start the healing properly, to heal our minds, to heal that pain that we all lived with. And now we're trying to stop our kids, our grandkids, from inheriting that pain. And I've had discussions with Clayton about this, Clayton Duncan. And that's what we all want. We want to stop the pain. We can't be arguing and keeping that going on for things that our ancestors and our European ancestors did to each other. So I'm so proud of the circle now for the things that we have accomplished. And I just can't express how honored I am to be sitting here telling you guys my story about Sugar Bowl. I'm so proud of my mom, Rose Miller. What a lady, what a strong lady. I got her arms, by the way. They're all sun-beaten, just like hers used to be out in her gardens. And very strong-minded woman. I wasn't born here in Whiteport, although my St. Mary's baptismal says I was born here. I was born in Colusa in a prune box. And Iggy Elliott once said, he goes, Jesus Christ don't have nothing on you. He goes, you were born in a prune box. He goes, and there were animals standing around out by the tent. Iggy always had something funny to say. And I'd like to kind of bring him into this too, because he was such a center person in our history of Scotts Valley. And he doesn't get the credit he should, and I want to make sure he does before I go, if I go. So, well, I'm going to finish with my grandkids. I have the youngest. His name is Enzo Chichum, who got named after me. Chichum, a stout oak from my father's side down in Hillsborough. Then there's Thor, Devin, Max, Ruby, Angel, and Andreas, Jacob, Andy, and Jackie. Those are my grandkids. My daughter is Camille. My two sons are Matthew Miller and Aaron Miller, who's on our Scotts Valley Council. And I never thought he would be the one to take up politics. He fooled me. But he's a gentle giant, and he carries on that good person tradition. So that's my rendition of Sugar Bowl and the Sugar Bowl people. We had our we don't have a reservation right now. And we have a lot of younger people in our tribe right now, and they tend, if they don't know the history, they tend to make it up, and that's detrimental to what I'm trying to accomplish here, because I volunteer at the museum, and we're after the facts, we're not after stories. So I think that's about it for me. Oh, except